to welcome you here to our third of these CEO peer-to-peer conversations. I think many of you have been coming back for each of them, so thanks for that. Thanks for your loyalty. As we get going, I want to thank Brad Ward, who I'm sure most of you know, who's been the architect of these conversations and has been really supporting our community foundation members over the whole course of this crisis. And then also Daniela and Manuela are our team members who are just the virtual learning experts. So thank you for keeping us all connected here. Yes, thank you for that applause, Dan. So this is supposed to be a forum for you to share your insights, to ask your questions, to grapple together with common challenges, so that we can all best address this really rapidly evolving situation. We are particularly hoping this time to create some smaller conversations, as Daniela said, so that we can go deep, so more voices can get in the room. And even as a follow-up to this, we're thinking about subdividing you, if you would like, into some smaller peer conversations on certain topics. So if something's keeping you awake at night that is not being addressed in some other forum, please, you put it in the chat box, email Brad or me so that we can support you with that. So I wanted to say that in the prep conversations with the volunteers from CEONet, we had several subjects come up that were of really great interest, and we want to take them all on over time. But given our limited time, we decided to narrow in on one that feels really relevant right now and to go a bit deeper. So as I mentioned, we're going to use breakout rooms, so you'll be able to talk about it, talk about these things in a smaller group. But what we want to spend some time on is about sort of the operational issues and the support of staff that we are providing in the current context. So I know many of you are thinking about or have already reopened your office space in addition to having staff working virtually. There are a lot of considerations, including staff well-being, health and wellness, risk management, an incredible host of things that we're all considering as we think this through. So we thought that we would hear from a couple of your peers. We're excited that two folks have agreed to just be lead discussants, meaning they'll just answer first so there's no silence in the room, but we hope everyone will bring their voices in too. And that's Vanessa Bechtel from Ventura County Community Foundation, who certainly has experience with disaster recovery, and then also Jennifer Toll-Whiteside from North Carolina Community Foundation. So I want to thank those ladies in advance for their contributions. Each of them will also be moderating one of the breakout rooms. So, with all of that said, I'd love to just start with this conversation about supporting the new normal operationally and with our staff. Our staff members have been traumatized in varying degrees, but all of us are experiencing anxiety and increased stress and pressure in the current context. So how are we institutionally managing and supporting our teams now? And how might we want to lean into that or do more as we think about the months ahead? So to lead off on that question, I'd love to turn it to Vanessa from Ventura County to share some of her thoughts.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. It's so nice to see all of you. As Kathleen said, our community foundation, like many of yours, have been struck by numerous disasters within the last several years. We've actually had 5 fires in our county, a devastating mudslide and a mass shooting, all within the last 2.5 years. And so going into a global pandemic, of course, was not part of our thought process a few months back, but I think it definitely has been taking its toll on our team. And so one of the things that really came out of a conversation, frankly, with Brad Ward, he connected me with an organization called Give an Hour. Now, Give an Hour, for those that are not familiar, is a national organization And what it is an organization that recruits trauma-informed therapists and other licensed professionals to donate 1 hour per week for a year, so that people that don't have access to mental health services can get that. One of the things that we started to realize was the fact that they were able to actually put together support groups in times of disasters that would be led by trauma-informed therapists. So they've been doing this for our fires, and they've been for our fire victims, and then also for the families and survivors of the mass shooting. So on the morning of March 13th, I reached out to Kirsty at Given Hour, and I said, could you do this but online? And so they now are running daily online mental health web-based support in both English and Spanish. So it's every day, and people can connect together and really talk through the different issues that they may be struggling with. And they're also doing some specialized groups. But one of the other aspects that they are helping nonprofits with, and could be a resource for each of you in your community foundations potentially as well, is free service team-based. It's an optional where they can meet with your full team and talk about kind of best practices, emotional wellness, mental health issues, and try to normalize and help bring up ways that our teams can help take care of themselves during this time. So it's free. They're fantastic. I don't know where we'd be as a community without this organization. And if you'd like to connect with me privately, I'd be happy to introduce you to them. But that's something that we've been finding really helpful at this point in time in the recovery process.
That just sounds like an amazing resource, and both for your grantees and for your staff. I'm wondering, Jennifer, do you have anything you want to share about how you're already supporting your team, or what you're leading into as you think about opening up the office?
I think that we've been much more focused on ensuring, really starting with ensuring that our team has everything that they need to be able to work from home or close to what they need. So we put resources into purchasing some additional software and some equipment and 2 monitor screens for some of our team who needed them, and really just thought about that piece of it to start with. And I love what Vanessa shared about the sort of the emotional piece that goes along with that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we have done is to really increase the communication that we have. We've got a team across the state. So it's really thinking about how often we're communicating and having a weekly update that comes from me that really is sharing lots of information to ensure that everyone has the same level of information about what's happening and how decisions are being made, and have incorporated some surveys and some ways to bring folks together on that.
Mm. What about others? What are some things you're proud of or would recommend in terms of how you're supporting your team? I can only see one page, so you just need to start speaking, because I can't tell if everyone has taken themselves off of mute. Anyone? There you go, Gary.
Yeah. Good morning, Gary Butterworth, Pikes Peak Community Foundation, Colorado Springs. I think I've been spending a fair amount of time, given that we've been at it for 10 weeks or so, with virtually no time off. Weekends, we're not working a full day, but I think the stress and everything that comes with this, I think I've noticed exhaustion. So a couple weeks ago, I mandated a Friday holiday. I think as we look into June and July, I've asked and created I can't demand that they take time off, but we've structured a schedule so that we have rolling weeks off, so that, when you don't have anywhere to go, the natural thing would be to just sort of say, well, it's not a great time to take time off, but knowing that, travel restrictions will be with us for quite some time. I just think it's critically important that they unplug, and even if it's at home and they use the time to read or just do nothing. So we're starting that in June and taking that through middle of August. Hopefully school will be back. I think a big concern for me, I have 2 working moms with elementary school aged kids, and the impact that I've seen on them. I mean, they're really 2 full-time jobs, and trying to balance that, trying to really be attentive to their needs and asking them and opening the conversation to them what would work for them, and then trying to figure out if we can accommodate that. So
it's a lovely way to frame it. And I bet you folks were very pleased about the Friday mandatory day off. Giving folks permission is one thing, but actually saying, nope, there's no work you can do here because we're all closed is something else.
And demanding it. And
yeah,
saying,
that's just
no meeting, no emails. No, I don't want to see any exchange, anything. So
yeah, that's terrific. One more comment on this one. Mike, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, I put it on chat, but maybe some of you have done this. We modified our vacation policy because it used to be use it or lose it after your anniversary date, and nobody's going on vacation now, so we let people roll it over for. We started at 30 days, and we're going to go to 60 days, and we'll evaluate it as we go. That's a simple thing you can do to help your staff a bit.
Yeah, I think that's lovely, and I think that coupled with Gary's point about people still needing the time, you know, how can we help them also rejuvenate on their time? These are terrific first thoughts on this question. I want to turn us briefly to the second idea of the office environment and what are the considerations? What are you thinking through? Either if you're about to go back, I see some of you are actually in your offices. It's apparent, or if that's something that you're actively considering right now. So we just have a quick poll. If you can take real quick. So are you in conversation about reopening your office? Yes or no? And then for those of you who are on video, which is a little bit more than half, good job, everyone. That's a good turnout for video. For those of you that we can see, if you already have reopened your office in some way, just raise your hand. Oh, so there is a big group, or sort of. There's a fairly decent sized group. That looked like almost half of folks. So lots of you are at least talking about it, and nearly half the folks on this call have already done it in some way. So it'd be great for you to share what you're already learning, what you wish you knew before you opened up, for those folks who've already done it. But I wanted to turn to Jennifer, who is just thinking about the various considerations here, not the least of which is the fact that opening up or not opening up has become a bit of a political question. So how's that playing out for you in North Carolina?
I think that we're particularly sensitive to the issue here in North Carolina. I mean, we are a statewide community foundation, and so we have folks that are affiliates across the state who are in communities that have very low cases of COVID-19, as opposed to some of us in our headquarters, which is, you know, there's lots in the Raleigh area. So I think we are really thinking about how to both support our team in making some standards and some not regulations, but rules about how we're opening. We're already getting some feedback from some of our fund holders who want to have events or hand out grant checks. And so how to set that standard and not get caught up in sort of a political discussion, which is really what this is turning into a little bit, around the politics of wearing a mask or being open and all of those things.
Mm. So what are, how are you navigating that? I mean, you're going to try to create the standards. Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm really curious. Yeah, how do you, what are you tying your decision making to, I would say?
So we're trying to tie it into both some data, some statewide, to look at the data and turn it into more of a supporting our team effort, as well as the other nonprofits who are really struggling in our state. So using data, being clear and communicating early are the sort of strategies that we're trying to use with folks.
And what is, do you have a plan, immediate or longer term, for opening back up, or is it still in the works?
It's still in the works. We are not planning, what we've shared with our team is that we will not be opening our offices or any of our activities across the state through the end of June at this point in time. And then we're looking at, as we move forward, extending that or not. But really, I think what's helpful for us is setting that direction so that our team, our staff can share that with folks in local communities. And it doesn't necessarily just come directly from them.
That's great. So I'm wondering if anyone else is grappling with the with balancing the organizational needs, the political implications, staff safety, and how you're doing that.
Hi, everybody. This is Marcelle Epley, kind of new to the group. So hello, I'm in Long Beach, California. And there's definitely a sentiment of mask wearers versus it's my personal freedom to go and do what I want and not wear a mask. And the tensions are definitely rising. It just kind of depends on where you're getting your information from. So we see a variety of things happening. Our beaches are not open for leisure use. It's only open for recreation use, and being a 7-mile coastal city, beaches are important to us. This past Sunday, the beaches were being used as if it was already a July 4th or Memorial Day weekend. So I think that people are just going and doing what they feel they need to do in a safe way. In terms of going back, our team does not feel safe going back. We had 2 cases in our building. We're on a 8th floor of a 14th floor building, and they've let me know that they're not comfortable with it. And so we've had our operations remote since March 18th, a few days before things were shut down here in Southern California. So I'm sort of following their lead and talking to them several times during the week and doing Zoom calls like these and just kind of getting the work done. And their families that have older children, so they're not as they're burdened by having to do both things, but not young children that they're having to supervise. As CEO of the organization, I have 2 young children, and so my challenge is leading the organization, working with the City of Long Beach to administer a disaster relief fund, while being a 4th grade teacher and a kindergarten teacher. Some days I feel like I'm failing at all of those things, but doing the best we can. And it's just interesting, the climate in Southern California as the weather is especially getting more lovely, that people are frustrated and are figuring out ways to socialize and get out and do what they want.
Interesting. Wow. Well, Marcel, I resemble that remark. I feel you on young kids and also trying to run an organization. So thank you for all the work that you're doing and for also prioritizing how your employees feel about going back. Did one more person want to share what their considerations were when they decided to reopen, or what they're thinking through now that they think the group might find helpful?
Kathleen, Nancy has her raised hand. Yeah.
Great. Go, Nancy. Thank you.
So we're a very small office. There's only 3 of us. I'm full-time. The other 2 are half-time. And I stayed home for a good chunk of time, and I started coming back to the office last week on a daily basis. And one of the things that I'm trying to process is that I have some board members that are highly motivated to meet in person and hold committee meetings and board meetings in person. And they are the same individuals that would be the least willing to wear a mask. And I am of the masking ilk. I have talked to my 2 coworkers, and the 3 of us agree that if we meet in person, that that we're going to be masked. And I'm concerned about the conversation that's going to happen when I have, we had one board member say, hey, I'd rather meet in person, but if you're going to make me wear a mask, we're going to Zoom. And the other one I know is going to be in person, and I'm concerned about the pushback.
Oh goodness, yeah, and the power position there too. I mean, there are so many dynamics wrapped up in that. Does anyone have advice or thoughts for Nancy? And then we're going to break into the small groups. Is anyone else experiencing something similar? Board and staff not on the same page? Judy?
Kathleen, we had our first board meeting that was sort of half and half because our governor has lifted orders and people were ready to come back, and we weren't really quite ready to have everyone in the building. So our board is 25 members. So we just said only half of the board would be able to participate, and we have a very large conference space. So we had everybody spaced out at tables about 10 feet apart. But the other half had to be virtual. And we said, if you attended in person, you must wear a mask for the mental health of the staff who were still in the building, and you must not go into the staff work areas. We designated only our one large conference space as the space where we felt the office was sufficiently large enough to have adequate social distancing. And you must be prepared to wear a mask and understand you're not going to move from your seat once you get here. We're going to sanitize everything behind you. So
that sounds like a really good compromise. You don't have to wear a mask, but then you also need to stay in your personal office. Mike is saying some really good things on the chat about how privileged we all are that we are sitting here working remotely, many of us, some of us in the office, and that those that we fund and the communities that we support, many don't have that luxury. So that's just a very important reminder to always keep front and center. Mike, thank you for that. So I want to have us break into these small groups so that we can get more voices in the room. We can continue this exact same conversation about supporting staff health, about figuring out issues related to opening up any operations in a physical space. So Daniela is going to scoot us off into these rooms. And I think all you have to do is say, yes, I'm going to join that room, okay?
That's right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And please use your chat feature, and there's an ask, question mark ask, and Manuel and I can answer any tech questions. Thank you. Hi, everybody. We're just waiting for everyone else to join.
Hi, everybody. Do we have most folks back? We've got some folks back. Here it goes.
Two more seconds and everyone would join. Yeah.
Okay, terrific. This is great. Thanks, everybody. And now we have even more people on video. Very exciting. Thanks for spending that time in small groups. I know that I really enjoyed our conversation with the group that I had the pleasure of being part of. So we're going to just do a quick report out. This is not everything that got said, but maybe 2 or 3 of the most interesting ideas or questions that came up that we could probe a little further. So we have 3 reporters who were charged with that. I think we've got everyone back now, right, Daniela? Okay, great. We've got everyone.
Yes, we do.
We've got everyone back. Terrific. And so we're going to ask the 3 reporters from those rooms to just give highlights, a minute or 2, and then we can continue with some broad group conversations. So I'm going to pick on Molly, who was in my subgroup with me, to go first. Molly, where are you?
I'm here. Can you hear me? All right, thank you. There is some work being done outside, so if you hear machine noise, I apologize. But we had a great conversation. Seems like a lot of the kind of highlights were around sort of equity with getting staff back, making sure staff feels comfortable coming back, and how to make that work with considering issues of childcare and ability for people to come back in. Questions, there's some really interesting questions about whether or not you own the building that you're in and have more control on setting building policies. That seems some staffs are uncomfortable, not so much in their own offices, but maybe in a building where there aren't as many controls. I thought there was an interesting question somebody raised that they'd been asked if they were considering now offering childcare in the office as a option. So I think people are starting to think in different ways, minimizing, again, the political implications of masks. How do you deal with board members who may have a different perspective than staff on safety issues? I think those were the primary highlights I got.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Molly. Dan, you are right next to Molly on my screen, so I'm going to you.
Sure, sounds good. We had a good conversation. I think some great ideas were around the idea of soft reopening. Spend a couple of weeks in a soft reopen to let people adjust, to address what employees need around their childcare needs, get the office operations procedures down and PPE and other protections, and then maybe give yourselves a couple weeks to do that. Having policies around, if you don't have a remote work policy already, to create that. Talked about some of the dynamics of people that maybe have abused that in the past, and now, you know, how to address those expectations. For slowing down some staff who are eager to get back, and you know, how to slow down people that just want to jump back into things but maybe aren't being protective enough. How to convene, how to deal with our convening role. That for the most part seems like everyone feels Zoom and remote conversations work pretty well, and it's okay to stick with that for a while. We don't, you know, our convening role is very important to us, but for the sake and protection of donors and stakeholders, we may not want to jump into that too quickly. A resource was shared, employeeshields.com, that can provide shields for even individual desks if needed, and for staff protection. So talk about some of those different ways to provide protection for staff. Final thing is the idea of staff taking time off, and again, encouraging them to take time off, or they may have to attend personal funerals, things like that. So if they travel outside the area in a more high-risk area, then self-quarantining might need to be required, and how to manage those expectations around traveling outside the immediate area.
Yeah, right. Gosh, all these important considerations. Thank you so much, Dan. Our final reporter is Judy. Thank you so much for doing this to the 3 reporters. So Judy, you're up. And you're
Jared has
currently,
already
there
been said, and I want to thank Vanessa for her great leadership of the group. But we had sort of 3 common themes. One was sort of just the technical aspects of, okay, we have a building. What does it mean to reconfigure our office, and what do we need to do? And we talked about sharing our policies around building reopening. I didn't get a chance to say, but I'm always careful about using the word policy, since this is evolutionary. I'd call it guidance. So another one was inclusiveness, and how do, Gary talked about a survey that that had been done up in St. Paul about, what's working well at home, what's not working well, and then how do we find that balance between what staff want, what board want, what needs to happen, so just getting a balanced perspective and being inclusive of all those voices as we gain that. And then Deanna's talking about, that was kind of interesting. She had an optimistic one. She said, that when you have natural disasters like this, it forces us to be nimble and to be adaptive. And so it's all, it's creating better leadership on our end. But then Nancy spoke to the need to be, just get comfortable with change, that what's going on in the future may look radically different than how we've done business previously. And that may look radically different for the next year. That thinking more long-term, as far as this being a marathon and not a sprint. Maybe people are going to need to work from home for a longer period of time. What's the balance? And again, finding that balance and being capable and of being nimble and adaptive as we need to go.
Great. Thank you so much, Judy. There's a lot of common themes that are at play there, and terrific ones. I was going to offer both Jennifer and Vanessa an opportunity for any kind of wrap-up reflections, a final insight or takeaway that you're having from this conversation, if you would like. And if not, if a couple other folks want to do that, that would be terrific too.
Kathleen, one of the things that really struck me and kind of came out of our group discussion was just the fact that we're not only going through the medical side, but the economic side as well. And so one of the things that I just really started to reflect on was just how can we incorporate some of that as the anxiety over the economic condition, as we may go through ups and downs over the next year or two. How can we best manage the fears that our employees might be having about staffing restrictions and other things there? And I just thought that really was a helpful component of the breakout discussion, and just certainly one for thought. And the other thing that I just really wanted to share, because it took several weeks, if you are purchasing personal protective equipment for your office going back, please, partner with your Office of Emergency Services to have them vet the company. We actually purchased $44,000 worth of masks from a reputable company, and they came and they were all cardboard. And so while we were able to get reimbursed, it's not something that I wish on any of you. So learn from our error, and I just really wanted to pass that on.
Oh my goodness, I don't think I would consider that your error, but that is a good cautionary tale. Jennifer, did you have a final thought you wanted to share?
I just wanted to, it's just great to connect with everyone and hear that all of us are going through such similar circumstances and situation. I think just the privilege and the sort of responsibility that we have to set sort of the guidelines about how we move forward with our team. And this piece of it is so critical in helping them also understand the mission of the work in doing that. So
yeah, there's so many ties into values and who we want to be in the world, and how we go about operationalizing that in this moment. That it's just, it seems really, really obvious, but also incredibly important. Well, this has been a terrific conversation. As we wrap up, I have 2 requests for you. Request number 1 is put in the chat the thing that's keeping you awake at night and where you want to go deeper. Just any question that you're thinking about that you want to go deeper, and we'll see if it, if there's enough that roll up into a theme for the next conversation that we're going to host. And then the second thing is we have a quick poll. This is the first time in this group that we've used these smaller group breakouts. So would you hear the 2 questions? Did you like the smaller group discussions, and would you like them incorporated in the next CEO roundtable? So just quick answer that poll for us so that we know whether it's working, whether it's not working. And we're always, excited by your engagement and your feedback. So please just let us know how we can best support you going forward. I heard a lot of really important themes. Flexibility and adaptability was clearly one of them that came up in the main session and as well in the breakouts. And then similarly, this idea about the fairness versus equity, right? People are differently situated in our context. We have folks who make more than other folks. We have folks who have family obligations and others who have fewer. So how do we think about treating our staff in the way that best supports them rather than treating them all the same? Feels like a pretty important consideration. So another thing that you can put in the chat box if you would like, here's the results to that poll. Basically most folks, except maybe one person, liked the smaller group roundtable conversation. I liked hearing all the voices that I hadn't yet heard. So thanks for that, good quick data. If you'd also like to be a discussion leader on any of the questions that are keeping you awake at night, ping Brad about that as well, because we want to get all of your voices into this room. So we're a couple minutes early, but I just wanted to say a very quick thank you. We will be sending the resources out after this. Again, thank you to Jennifer and Vanessa, thank you to the council team, and thank you to CEONet for your partnership. So people were a little bit less verbose in their wrap up, so you have 2 minutes extra in your day. We'll wrap up now. Thanks everybody, good to be with you.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Bye.